What's going on, everyone? My name is Logan Armstrong, and today we're going to be talking about a few different ways to get that buttery smooth stabilized footage, whether that's using gimbals, software on your computer, or just a few tips and tricks. We're going to be talking about that here today. But first, I'm going to drink some coffee, and we're going to roll that intro. Alright, so the first thing that I'm going to recommend, whether you're in the market for a new camera or just looking to upgrade your current camera, is finding a camera that has in-body image stabilization. This is going to make a world of a difference if you're shooting handheld or even on a gimbal or some sort of stabilizing equipment like a Ronin or a Steadicam. My camera that I currently shoot with is a Lumix GH5, and it has, I think, 5-axis image stabilization, and it does a great job. And especially if you pair it with one of their Pro Series lenses, like I typically shoot on the 12 to 35 2.8, and it has image stabilization as well. So what it creates is called dual IS, and you get a really good product from that, and it's very, very stable footage. Now, if you're not in the market for something like a Lumix camera, I know the Canon 70D has good image stabilization, as well as some of the Sony cameras, such as the A6500 and the A7S Mark II. So I'll put a link to those in the description of this video, so if you want to go check out those cameras, you can feel free. So the next thing that I would recommend would be shooting in slow motion or finding a camera that has slow motion capabilities. What this is going to allow you to do is when you go into post-production and you slow that video down, you're going to get rid of a lot of those micro jitters that you get a lot of times from shooting with a lighter camera handheld. I utilize this a lot because I shoot with the Lumix GH5, usually shooting in 120 or 180 frames a second. Next is going to be utilizing software that either your computer has or that your editing software has built into it. I currently edit with Final Cut Pro. That's just my editing software of choice, and so I'll jump into the computer right now and show you guys how I utilize that. I've gone ahead and jumped into Final Cut Pro, my editing software of choice. I've gone ahead and taken the liberty of putting a few clips in here just to kind of show the upsides and downsides of the stabilizing software that that Final Cut Pro has to offer. So if we go ahead and look at the first clip here, it's just a clip of Emily walking in the plaza that we were shooting in earlier today. As you can see, it's just not a very stabilized clip at all. It's just overall very shaky. Reason being is I had the dual IS off on my camera, meaning the stabilization off on my camera as well as on the lens, so it creates a very shaky image. So if we go ahead and watch that back one more time, as you can see, it's pretty darn shaky. What I did do though is I just went ahead and duplicated that clip and applied a stabilizing effect to that. And how I did that is I went ahead and clicked on the clip, highlighting it, and then I went over to the inspector window here, scrolling down to the stabilization, clicking that on, and then choosing the inertia cam as the method. And when you're trying to stabilize your footage, guys, you can just go ahead and play around with these, figure out which one works best for you, and just use that method as you see fit. So if we go ahead and watch that here again, as you can see, this is probably the downside, is what I was trying to get to, or what I was trying to say earlier, and meaning that it creates a sort of warped effect at the outside edges of the clip, which is not what you want. So this is an example of where a clip does not work very well as far as trying to stabilizing in post. So that's why I can't stress enough trying to get more stable footage while you're in the field shooting. That way you're not stressing in post-production trying to stabilize unstable footage. One of the upsides, what I was getting to earlier, is trying to stabilize hyperlapses, which, if you don't know what that is essentially a moving time lapse. Here's one that I shot in Paris. Final Cut Pro at least does a fantastic job of stabilizing hyperlapses, so I'm going to go ahead and play it without the stabilization and then with the stabilization effect applied. So here it is without the stabilization, and then with the stabilization effect applied. And again, how I did that is I highlighted the clip, went over to the inspector window, scrolled down to stabilization, clicked it on, chose my method as inertia cam, and turned it up to about 2. Then I let that rendered out, and as you can see, one more time before stabilization and after stabilization. So as you can see, depending on the clip, it does vary. Sometimes you can get a much better quality stabilization effect than others. So it has its ups and downs. So again, I just can't stress enough, try and get more stable footage, or as stable footage as you can when you're in the field shooting, and that will make your life a ton easier in post-production. If you guys do want to see me do a tutorial on how I shoot hyperlapses, I would love to do that. So go ahead and leave a comment down in the comment box if you would like to see that. But back to the tutorial. Now, even if you edit on Premiere or whatever Sony's editing software is, I'm sure they have great stabilizing softwares, and I will make sure to put links in the description for videos that show you how to utilize those stabilizing softwares. Okay, so before we get into a few just little tips and tricks here, the main thing that I can recommend, but probably the most expensive one, is going to be finding a motorized gimbal. Now, I currently shoot with and use pretty much on a daily basis when I'm out shooting is the Zhiyun Crane gimbal. Now I really can't say enough good things about this, and actually my buddy Zack, who's a filmmaker from Chicago, did a really cool comprehensive review on this gimbal. I've had it for probably about a year now and like I said, can't say enough good things. So I'll make sure I'll link the video where he talks about this in depth on how to balance the gimbal, how to use all of its features, in the description, so you guys can check that out if you want to learn more in depth about this specific gimbal. You basically stabilize your camera on top of the gimbal, and then the motors do the rest of the work, and you're able to get really cool running shots, walking shots. Now obviously if you're running up and down, there's still going to be slight movement, but the gimbal is going to take care of a bulk of that work. So just a few quick tips and tricks before we finish up here today. One tip that I would suggest doing is whenever you're filming handheld, at least try holding the camera as close as to your body as you can to reduce those micro jitters. Typically, the lighter the camera is, you're going to get more of those micro jitters while you're filming. Especially, let's say you're filming with an iPhone and you're trying to walk with that. Since it's so light, you're going to be moving around a lot and fumbling a lot compared to something like a full DSLR or a mirrorless camera like my GH5, which has a little bit more heft to it. You're going to be able to reduce those micro jitters, especially if you're holding it nice and tight to your body and keeping your arms as structured and tight as you can. Also, some other things that I would recommend is using your camera strap. There are some cool tips and tricks online that can show you how to utilize just household things, and especially like the camera strap that came with your camera that you would never think to use for stabilizing footage. You can use that in some pretty unique ways as well. Before you go, I'll show you guys what I was able to put together just from shooting out with Emily. I'll put her Instagram handle right here so you can check out her stuff too. But we decided to go out and shoot a little bit, and utilizing all these different tips and tricks, I'll show you what we were able to put together. So hopefully you guys picked up at least one good tip that you guys can start utilizing today to get that buttery smooth footage in your videos. So this is maybe my third tutorial on this channel. I said in a previous video that I was going to start to do them more, and I just honestly didn't do them for about a month. But I think I'm going to try and do them more and more. I would really like to get some good content out on my YouTube channel. So it would mean a lot if you did make it this far to hit that like button. Please subscribe, and then leave a comment whether you have a question. I'll be happy to answer that or make a future video about it. So that's it for me today, and I'll see you guys next time.